What is up, everybody? Welcome back to 9 to 5 Gamers, and y'all already know what today is Top 10 Tuesday. And today's Top 10 Tuesday is going to be about the topic of video games that need to be board games. There's been a ton of video games that have become board games, and they are, like, the list is endless. I mean, Monster Hunter, Stardew Valley, which I rated a 9 out of 10 because I just absolutely love that game. And these are games that were based off of popular video game franchises, and they feel a lot like the video games. And there's the Metal Gear Solid, which is coming out, that I'm super excited for, that was up for pre-order. We've got Call of Duty, the board game that's coming out. We've got Apex Legends. And so not every video game needs to be a board game. I don't agree with that either. I think they should just stay as video games and be there. But I think it's cool. Shovel Knight is another good example of a game that became a board game. But games like Oregon Trail, just leave it on the computer back in like the 90s, 80s, whenever that game came out. That game is phenomenal there. The board game, not so great. But I definitely thought about a couple of games that I'm like, how would this translate into today, into like modern board games? Could they do something interesting with this? And so with that said, I came up with my top 10 list. So let's go through these, and let me just give you a fair warning. Nintendo is the biggest culprit. Nintendo needs to make games besides Clue and Monopoly. Like that's the only time you see their board games is on those games, but we'll talk about that later. So, my number 10 to start the list off is League of Legends. The MOBA franchise, which is that, multiplayer online battle arena, which is just basically two teams of people that are rushing towards each other, and they're conquering over like territories from the enemy side, and then you have to try to take flags and go to the other side. That MOBA style game has translated really well into board games, hence the reason why Skytier is so popular. Skytier is a MOBA style game. So League of Legends would be an amazing board game port over. Now, I've never actually played League of Legends. I don't own like a PC for playing. I would like to play League of Legends and try it out because I like MOBAs. I think they're pretty cool. I've played a few MOBAs, including the Pokemon MOBA that came out. That was actually pretty fun. But MOBAs are great, and I think they make great board games, and so I would love to see League of Legends maybe get a board game. Number 9, we have a ton of racing games, and all of these racing games are great, but man, Mario Kart as a board game would just be, and it can be done because you have Dungeon Kart, which is just a new release, but you've also got Dodo's Riding Dinosaurs, right? Dodo's Riding Dinosaurs, I gave that a 10 out of 10. I love that game. That is the closest thing to Mario Kart that I can get. And that's the thing. It's like in the space, these games exist. They just don't have the IP of Mario Kart. And I'm like, bro, Dodo's Riding... If the people who made Dodo's Riding Dinosaurs had pitched this to Nintendo and Nintendo shot them down, which I think is the main problem. Nintendo, they are so stingy with their licenses. They never want to give their licenses out for anything. They never let people use their characters. And because of that, it has caused them to fall behind. Then, I know that there was a new person in charge of Nintendo, and they started to branch out. They made apps. They made phone apps and stuff like that because they would never go to mobile apps. But they made some great mobile apps for Nintendo as well. But I think the board game space is somewhere where they're lacking. But a Mario Kart board game, man, that would be great. I would love that. I'm sure some of y'all out there would love to have a Mario Kart where you can actually shoot and flick and have a little bit of like a dexterity. You're doing like red shells and different things like that. You get the blue shell where you got to just drop it. Literally, Dodo's Riding Dinosaur proved it can be done. I don't understand why nobody has hopped on that yet. Mario Kart needs to get made ASAP. My number 8 is Final Fantasy VII, one of the greatest games of all time. I think Final Fantasy VII is fantastic. I know there's some other Final Fantasy games in the series that were probably better and maybe more well-suited for the board game. I know there's like tactics and different things like that you could probably do. But I think that Final Fantasy VII would make a fantastic board game, especially 7, because I just love the story. I love the campaign. Not to mention they have enough characters that everybody could pick somebody. You've got Cloud, you've got Tifa, you've got Barrett, you've got Vincent, you've got what's the girl's name? I forget her name. But there's a ton of characters that you could have as playable characters in this game, and it would just be really, really cool with miniatures and stuff like that. Oh my gosh, a nice miniatures combat game where you could like move and fight enemies and stuff like that, and you have like AoE attacks. Dude, that would be so great to have like a scenario-driven game like that. I would love a Final Fantasy VII game. It's got to happen. Maybe it already has happened and it was garbage. Somebody make it better. I don't know, because that's the thing. It's like some of these games have been made. Like one of the ideas that I was like, yo, it'd be sick if they made a Tetris game. Apparently, Phil Walker Harding made a Tetris game, so I ended up taking that one off my list. And it was a little cooler than what I thought it was going to be, but then not everybody received it well. I think it was like a 6.3. But the way that I pictured it was like Planet Unknown, where you have the spinning Lazy Susan. So it's like I'm going to choose which of these Tetris pieces I'm going to use, and that automatically chooses it for everybody. So it's every turn, it's always random which tiles you're getting, and you have to figure out the best way to effectively. And every time you clear out, you can clear out pieces. That'd be super cool, man, if they did it like that. But yeah, so maybe Final Fantasy VII, maybe they did make it and it was just bad. Remake it, make a new one. I really want to see Final Fantasy VII as a good game. Number 7 is a game called Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing it's just it reminds me of Stardew Valley. It's a lot like Stardew Valley, but man, I would just love like a nice, cozy, chill game where your goal is not to win. And I think there's a game that exists like that as you play. It's like your goal is not to win or anything like that. It's just to continue to build up this garden or something like that. There was a game like that. I'm like, Animal Crossing is a perfect example of that, where you're building up this community and you're making friends and building relationships and going out and collecting things and donating them to the museum, to Blathers, and have all of the great characters that are in that game. I would love an Animal Crossing game. A super nice, chill, cozy one that would be super fun to play, with your spouse and just chill like on a Saturday morning while you're just playing the game and sipping some coffee. I would love a game like that about Animal Crossing. Yet another Nintendo game that needs to be made. Number 6 is a game called Fable. There's been a lot of board games that are fantasy themed, but man, Fable was such a good video game, and I would love to see them port that over and make an actual board game out of it. There were so many things you could do. It was an RPG, and I love RPG games. It'd be cool if they made maybe a tabletop format of it, or if they made an actual board game that was like, campaign-driven, app-driven, and then you can just kind of work your way through the game of Fable, and the decisions you make change things. I love that. That would be super cool, because Fable was immediately my wife's, like, one of my wife's favorite games of all time. But to make it as a video, also she influenced this list because she gave me her feedback on it. And Fable is just a game we would both love to see, just because it has, I don't know, sentimental value to us, but it's such a good game, and I would love to see a game like that. My number 5 is Star Wars. Now, there's a lot of Star Wars board games, but the Star Wars board game I want does not exist. Because for some reason, the Star Wars board games have all kind of like put themselves into one lane, which is like just combat games. You know what I mean? Like, it's so linear. It's just, you had X-Wing, you had Armada, you had Shatterpoint, the new one. And I'm like, those miniatures games are fine. I like the miniatures games, but there's too many miniature games like that. There's not enough like actual board games. You have Star Wars Rebellion, which is great. It's a 1v1, but I'm looking for more of a campaign-driven game. There's been Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. You've got, what's the name of that other game that just came out? Star Wars, Force Unleashed was another one that was really, really good. And the most recent Star Wars game, it's going to be up in the corner. Can't remember the name of it. But these are great story games where there was an actual storyline that you progress through. And it would be so cool to just tackle missions or do Clone Wars. Clone Wars, the board game, not the pandemic one. That's fine. Like, it's a fine game. It's not the best game I've ever played. It's fine. And it's pandemic, so you know, it is what it is. I don't want like a pandemic system, but just with a Star Wars skin, although that is probably like my favorite pandemic right now because I'm just so sick of pandemic. But I would love like an actual story-driven game that's driven through, like, you actually get to go into a ship and you've got the corridors and you know, maybe use little grid hex spaces to make like a map, and you go through ships exploring, and you know, and during the Clone Wars it would be super cool to fight like some of those ground wars and stuff, but just playing as the Jedi. You've got Ahsoka, you've got Obi-Wan, you've got Anakin, and bro, the list goes on of great Jedi that you could use during that time, because that was when most of the Jedi were still alive. And so, like, man, it would be so good to have a board game that was like actual like story driven for Star Wars. That's not just, hey, set up a bunch of players and fight each other. I'm just tired of that. Outer Rim, pick up and deliver. Star Wars does have like a lot of different games. I'll give them that. They have the deck building game, but there's not a good story driven Star Wars game, at least not to my knowledge. And if there is, please, guys, if I'm wrong, put it in the comment section so I can go pick these things up. I'm asking for them, and if they exist, don't be mean, don't be rude. Put it in the comment section because I want to know. Just know that that's my mentality towards your comments, so that way you're not like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. That Star Wars game already exists. Okay, I didn't know that. Tell me. So teach me. You guys have probably been playing board games longer than I have. I've only been playing since like the pandemic. So, and even then, I only had like maybe 10 games that I was cycling through at that time, and now I'm like at 300, 400 something. Anyway, Star Wars campaign game. If it exists, put it in the comment section because I need it. I need it ASAP. I needed it yesterday. Number 4 is Zelda. Zelda, oh my gosh, why doesn't this exist? Maybe it does. Maybe I'm wrong. Put it in the comment section. But I need a good Zelda game. Like Breath of the Wild, exploration, like, bro, that would be so fire. Nintendo, what are you doing? We want these games. I know I'm not the only one who wants a Zelda game. An Zelda adventure game? I think the closest thing we got to Zelda was like Tiny Epic, what was that one? Tiny Epic Adventure? Is that what it's called? I forget the name of it. I'll put it over here. Tiny Epic something is the closest thing. It literally has like a Triforce and everything. Like it's basically the same thing. But I'm like, that's what I want. I want like a nice Zelda game, but not Tiny Epic. I want like I want a box that's like this big with freaking Zelda all over it, man. Man, a Zelda game would be so good. Like, please agree with me here, right? I'm not the only one. My number 3, this is a weird one. Maybe this might take you guys far back, or maybe not. But this is another game that we need that doesn't exist. I know this doesn't exist because I've played most of this franchise. And I know that everybody's tired of Marvel games. There's one game that I'm missing that I need. Marvel Ultimate Alliance. I don't know if you guys remember Marvel Ultimate Alliance, but Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2 came out a long time ago. And it's a great game where you can actually play with 2 to 4 people, I think. And everybody is working together on these missions. Or maybe it was only 3, I don't remember. But you had like 2 or 3 characters that you controlled. And you would go around and fight hordes of enemies. But then on top of that, there was a little bit of a story in the background of it. But a nice like RPG story-driven game would be fantastic. We don't have that for Marvel. There's no Marvel games that are campaign-driven. All the Marvel games that we have, they have like little mini campaigns for champions. But again, it's a card game. So when you play card games, they're great. But it's really hard to like envision that you are that person. And I think that Marvel Champions, for only using cards, has done a phenomenal job in making every character feel like their actual comic book character. But I need like miniatures on a map, roaming, fighting, doing attacks, and then Marvel Dagger I thought was going to get close to that, but it's not quite there yet. You know what I mean? Like Marvel Dagger to me just felt like a Marvel board game where you just go around. It felt a little pandemic-y. I could see that, where it's just like I'm moving from space to space and I'm going to clear out enemies here and do this. That's basically what Marvel Dagger is. But it's not that story-driven campaign that I want, man. That's just more scenario boss-driven. It's like it's a boss battler. You know what I mean? And you just got to do 1,000 things to get to the boss, and it takes forever. I really need a Marvel Ultimate Alliance ASAP board game, please. And that's the thing. This can actually be made, for sure. Zelda? Probably not. Because I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of games that exist right now because somebody asked Nintendo, and they went... Okay, thanks a lot, Nintendo, for ruining my childhood and my adulthood at the same time. Fix yourselves. All right, so Marvel Ultimate Alliance, that can be made. That's what I was saying. Marvel Ultimate Alliance, that one can be made because we've made a ton of Marvel games. Who's going to just take up the mantle and just say, hey, look, I'm gonna make a massive darkness or a Gloomhaven version of Marvel. That would be amazing. I need Marvel Gloomhaven ASAP. If you don't make this for me, I'm not your friend anymore. Marvel Ultimate Alliance Gloomhaven game. That's my number 3. I'm really passionate. Sorry. But this is what makes This is what makes good content. So let's keep it going. Let's keep up that passion. My number 2. This is my favorite video game franchise of all time. I have played every single game that has come out, except for like some spin-off games, but that doesn't count. Those don't count because I don't have to be a perfect completionist fan because some of those games are bad. But I need a Pokemon game. And let me explain something, because I know someone was trying to make this and they got turned down by Pokemon. Okay? Now, I don't know that for a fact because I've never spoken to the person, but actually, if you watch this video and you see this, whoever created this game, and the game is Robomon. Creator of Robomon, I wanna sit down and do an interview that guy. I'm gonna grab him and I'm gonna interview him and I'm gonna ask him about his inspiration and everything about that. But his game is the closest thing to Pokemon. The minute I saw that game was coming out, I grabbed it instant. I didn't even ask how much it costed. I said, this could be $1,000. I'm getting it because it's Pokemon, but not Pokemon. And the reason why it's not Pokemon is because they probably turned the board game down. I saw another guy that was working on a Pokemon board game, and they had the whole thing lined out, but they couldn't get the license for it. It might have been the same guy. I don't know. But, like, bro, the earning badges and catching wild Pokemon, bro, I love Pokemon so much. You have no idea. If there's anything I know a lot about, Pokemon is one of those things. I have so much useless knowledge in my brain of Pokemon. I've played every single game. I know every Pokemon by heart. I always see those challenges on TikTok, and they're like, name this Pokemon and get $10. I was like, I clean you out in a second because I know them all. Gotta catch them all, Pokemon. But yeah, a Pokemon game, it needs to happen. But for right now, I'm settling for Robomon, and by settle, I'm so happy that Robomon got made because I'm like, bro, this is going to scratch an itch that I've had for so long. And to the creators of Robomon, thank you so much. No, thank you for, if this was the case, because like I said, I don't know if this was the case. I don't know if they actually asked Nintendo to see if they can get a Pokemon license and were turned down. But if that was the case and you still made Robomon anyway, thank you. Because I would have just given up, right? I probably would have just been like, dang, I didn't get the license, there's no point. But you went the extra mile. Robomon, amazing. I can't wait to play the game. So excited. Because it's based off my favorite video game franchise of all time. It didn't make my number 1, though. And that's because my number 1 would be the most epic, stinking board game of all time. And not everybody will agree with this pick. But I need this game ASAP. Because it's space-themed, and space-themed games are great. Like, it's hard to see a space game miss. Like, they're just great. Space games are great. Any games that exist in space are usually really, really good. But I would love to see Mass Effect as a board game. Dude, like an ISS Vanguard, but Mass Effect themed with the Mass Effect characters, the Mass Effect alien races and things like that you can find, and then you've got planets and you've got to make meaningful decisions and stuff like that, and planets get to... I wonder if ISS Vanguard is like gonna scratch the itch. It feels like it is because I started playing it and it feels like it's scratching the itch for Mass Effect that I have, even though the last 2 Mass Effects have been horrendous letdowns because Andromeda was not great. It was riddled with all kinds of bugs and different things when it first came out, and it just didn't feel the same, right? Like, it felt like it was okay. Like, I just felt like it was fine. Mass Effect 3, one of the worst endings of all time. They ruined the franchise, even though Mass Effect 3 was great on the way to the end. But once you got to the end, it was a terrible ending. Like, basically, you had green, red, or blue. But no matter what you did, it was the same ending. and all the choices you made up until this point that carried over from previous save files didn't even matter. Because it doesn't really address any of those things. It felt rushed. It felt like it was terrible. I heard a woman baked a whole bunch of cupcakes and sent them to the game studio. Not sure if this is actually true, but she sent them red, blue, and green cupcakes, and she was like, "Oh, look, I made you red, blue, and green cupcakes, but they're all vanilla, so enjoy." Like, you have no choice. Like, even though you get to choose which color you want, they're all the same flavor. And I was like, dang, that's actually kind of gangster. I kind of like that. But yeah, Mass Effect, man, I need a board game of that, because Mass Effect 1 and 2 were just phenomenal games. The story was great. The decisions you made were great. And I think ISS Vanguard is going to scratch that itch, but I just need to finish playing through it and see. But for right now, it kind of is. But man, I would love a Mass Effect board game. That would be fantastic. It doesn't have to be app-driven, I said that, but app-driven games, they add like an ambiance to the game. ISS Vanguard has that, where it adds like noises, sound effects, narration. I think that's nice. Having that type of stuff on an app is great. I think Foreteller is great. They should continue to use those. But man, I really need a Mass Effect game as soon as possible. That game is great. But anyways, thank you guys for tuning in to this Top 10 Tuesday video. Go ahead in the comment section, let me know what's a video game you want to see be made into a board game, and why. Let me know why. I love having conversations with you guys in the comment section. Don't forget, liking this video is the best way you can support. And if you would like to go above and beyond just liking the video, try becoming a member. Memberships are really cheap. You just click the join button there. If you don't see the join button on your phone, try using a computer. You usually find it there. You do anything from $3 a month to $5 to $10, and every little bit helps and counts towards helping this channel get to a place where it's actually producing and making some money. And with that, we can do some board game giveaways, which, by the way, we've got a board game giveaway because we hit 10,000 subscribers. Woo! But anyways, this video is way too long. I hope you guys have a great day. Don't forget, try to become a member. And we got a giveaway coming around, so pay attention for that video when it comes up. And I think that's it. Deuces. See you guys later.